Hello and welcome to another episode of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Luke Snyder, joined by our forecaster, Filippo Formica. Now, Filippo, I don't know about you, I've been loving this real fall-like weather we've been having the past few days. Been breaking out those sweaters, the sweatpants. Are you going to be seeing any of that continue in our forecast ahead?
I think you'll see those fall feels continuing for Friday, but we have to break out the umbrellas and the rain jackets for the rest of the weekend.
Oh my gosh, so sweater weather for one more day, but then obviously staying safe and aware with that precipitation. So yes. Thank you so much, Filippo. We'll hear from him in just a moment, but up first, we have our nature in the news. Remnants of Typhoon Halong struck western Alaska with aggressive hurricane-force wind gusts on Monday, resulting in at least one death and dozens of rescues. Powerful wind gusts and coastal flooding first impacted Alaska's west coast Sunday, where the storm generated wind gusts of 100 miles per hour or more. In Kusilvak, a wind gust of 107 miles per hour was recorded, while nearby in Toksuk Bay recorded a gust of 100 miles per hour, according to the National Weather Service. These winds also brought dangerous storm surges, triggering major flooding in coastal areas. Water levels in Kipduk soared to 14.5 feet on Sunday, 1.5 feet above the previous record flood level set in 2000. More than 1,500 people were displaced due to the storm, and at least 51 people and 2 dogs have been rescued in Quingilincock and the nearby village of Kipnuk since the weekend.
20 years ago this week, the Atlantic Basin experienced its strongest hurricane in recorded history. A broad area of circulation over the Caribbean Sea tightened during the second week of October, forming Tropical Depression 24 on October 15, 2005. 2 days later, Wilma was named a tropical storm southwest of Jamaica. Between the 18th and the 19th, the then Category 1 hurricane rapidly intensified, with its central pressure dropping 97 millibars and wind speeds increasing to 185 miles per hour. The now Category 5 hurricane continued to deepen, reaching a minimum central pressure of 882 millibars, the lowest recorded pressure for a tropical cyclone in the Atlantic, and the second lowest in the Western Hemisphere, behind only Hurricane Patricia in 2015, which reached 872 millibars. The storm weakened slightly during an eyewall replacement cycle before making landfall on the Yucatan Peninsula on October 20th, with maximum sustained winds of 150 miles per hour. After battering the eastern Yucatan, including resort towns like Cancun, Wilma entered the Gulf of Mexico as a Category 2 storm. It slowly re-intensified into a major hurricane before making a second landfall in southwest Florida. Wilma quickly crossed the peninsula, weakening to Category 2 strength in the process. In total, Wilma was blamed for 52 deaths, 30 of them in Florida, and caused approximately $26.5 billion in damages. Much like Hurricane Milton, Hurricane Wilma proved that late-season hurricanes are still capable of producing widespread destruction and that we should never let our guard down.
As wildfires intensify in the western United States, tribal leaders and community members are reigniting their forests to save them. For thousands of years, indigenous people controlled their forest with fire as part of tradition and environmental protection of the land. However, in 1850, California lawmakers made it legal to fine or punish anyone burning land, and the 1911 Weeks Act established a policy of total fire restraint, allowing federal agencies to control wildland fires, thus making cultural wildfires illegal. Cultural fires take practice and skill and follow strict guidelines that are impacted by terrain and weather. The groups build a perimeter around their set field and work counterclockwise when lighting the fires. Afterwards, they use hoses and prevailing winds to guide the flames naturally before putting them out altogether. These burns promote native species growth and reduce wildfire risk. Last fall, California passed legislation that allows federally recognized Native American tribes to conduct cultural burning, acknowledging their independence and history with the land and helping the sacred practice return.
We're going to have to break out the umbrellas and rain jackets again this weekend in our central Pennsylvania forecast. But first, on Friday, a cool start to the day. Widespread freezes across the Commonwealth, especially in the northern tier and the higher elevations as high pressure takes control. A dry day, but some showers still lingering from that nor'easter across areas of Cape Cod and down East Maine. But here in Pennsylvania, it is going to be a beautiful day to get outside. Milder conditions are going to be off to our west, and that's ahead of a warm front associated with a low pressure system that will be bringing in plenty of rainfall this weekend. On Saturday, most of the rain will stay off to the western portion of the Commonwealth, to the west of the ridges. A cold front is associated with that low pressure system, and that will be draping its way across the Commonwealth as we go throughout this weekend. That high pressure system that was dominating our weather for Friday is going to be sliding off the coast. And then as we head into Sunday, it is a day to stay inside, maybe break out a board game or two. It is an indoor day as rain takes control across the entirety of the Commonwealth. A warmer day, about 5 degrees above average for this time of the year. I do want to point out this surface trough, the surface level of convergence. I do think we're going to see some heavier showers and downpours along this surface trough as it moves through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So if you have a rain gauge out there, you may notice some higher totals where this trough sets up for a longer period of time. And we'll see that cold front eventually move through the Commonwealth Sunday and into Monday. So for this weekend, Friday, 63 degrees our high, just a few ticks above average, a crystal clear day. Chilly Friday night, a low of 39, just above our threshold for frost, which is 36. As we head into Saturday, those clouds start to increase, 66 our high. And Saturday night, those rain showers start to move into central Pennsylvania with a low of 45. As we head into Sunday, showers, some of those heavier downpours in place, about 5 to 10 degrees above average, 68 our high. Next, we have a feature by Rebecca Newell on saltwater intrusion.
Do you ever wonder where your drinking water comes from? Perhaps as a brief shower thought, but the idea that it could ever become a scarce resource is almost unthinkable. But this is a real concern for coastal citizens whose fresh water supplies are connected to rising oceans. Take Philadelphia, for example.
In Philly, they draw their drinking water out of the river, and the river's tidal. As tides go all the way up, and salt can get up there, during droughts, and can threaten the water supply.
The phenomena of saltwater encroaching on freshwater is known as saltwater intrusion, or more accurately, salinity squeeze, because it happens at both the land and the ocean sides. Here we have a simulation of this with freshwater and saltwater. When this barrier is removed and the saltwater and the freshwater are able to mix, the saltwater is going to sink beneath the freshwater because it's more dense.
But really, unlike other things that might be in drinking water, like, bacteria, for example, can be treated with chlorine. Like water is often chlorinated in order to kill the bacteria in water. So that's one kind of treatment, but there aren't really treatments that are used for salt contamination.
So how does Philadelphia keep this issue under control? Although unable to cleanse salt from freshwater, they do have a way to hinder saltwater intrusion.
So what Philadelphia does is that they prevent the flow of the river from getting too low. They have a threshold of that the river flow can't drop below. And the way they manage it is just by releasing water from the reservoir. So that's how they deal with it. And actually, they've been quite effective. It's worked very well. And they're able to keep the water supply pretty much salt free. But what they're worried about is that, it's going to get worse because we might be seeing more droughts in the future. It's certainly getting warmer. So you have that. You also have sea level rise.
Climate change is increasing sea level and weather conditions that promote saltwater intrusion, but that is not the only concern. Human activity also plays a role, especially inland.
I've been emphasizing the impact of, changes in climate and weather on saltwater intrusion, but what we do on land has an impact as well. So our rivers, like if you just go to rivers here in Center County and look at how, rivers naturally have salt in them. That's why the ocean is salty, because all the rivers in Pennsylvania, non-tidal rivers, they're pretty much wherever you monitor for salt, and you can do it pretty easily. There are probes that measure the electric conductivity of the water, and that's related to how much salt there is. We see the conductivity going up, right? And why is that? A lot of it has to do with the application of road salt, which of course we need to do in order to keep our roads safe. We could be doing that a lot more smartly. We could be using brines instead of like rock salt, and brines have been shown to be as effective as putting, just salt down.
When snow and ice hits, salt trucks dump tons of salt on highways. That salt washes into streams and rivers, which stresses freshwater ecosystems even outside of coastal zones. Salt trucks aren't the only ones to blame, though. Individual overusage of salt on driveways or sidewalks also contribute. Now, that doesn't mean you have to end your usage of salt entirely, you just have to stay on top of things.
And individuals, they can play a role too. When it snows, when it stops snowing, you should get out and shovel your sidewalk. And if you do that, you don't have to put down as much salt, right? Because people end up putting salt down because maybe they waited too long to shovel. Then it gets icy, right? But if you go out and shovel, and usually it'll warm up after a storm, and the sun will come out, and that'll, you won't have a problem. But people tend to oversalt their sidewalks and driveways, and businesses tend to overdo it. And you can understand why. There's safety issues. It's better maybe to overdo it than to underdo it. But it's just a matter of just doing it more thoughtfully and smartly. And you can be as safe with less salt if you do it in a judicious way.
When winter rolls around and snow begins to pile up, try not to put off plowing your driveway and be mindful of your salt usage so that you can do your part in keeping our water fresh. For Whether or Not, I'm Rebecca Newell.
We're going to be talking a lot about averages in this extended forecast, but first let's take a weekend recap. On Friday, 63 our high, 39 our low with crystal clear skies, a beautiful day to get out. But as a low pressure system increases clouds on Saturday and brings in some showers Saturday night, high of 66, low of 45 there, before an above average Sunday with a high of 68, showers and some downpours associated with that surface level trough, a low of 47 as you're stepping outside early Monday morning. Now for our extended forecast, we're going to call it absolutely average because we are going to be sitting right around our averages for this time of the year, which is just a tick below 60. On Monday, we'll see a high temperature of about 58 degrees, a lot of partly cloudy skies for next week. Tuesdays are one day I think that will be above average with a high temperature right around 62. As we get into Wednesday, there is a weak cold front that will be moving through the Commonwealth. That's our best chance for any showers or precipitation. Thursday and Friday, well below average for this time of the year with partly cloudy skies persisting into the end of next week. Up next is our Weather Whiz Quiz answer.
So if you guessed D, October 13th, you would be correct. And that actually just happened this month with Tropical Storm Lorenzo when it officially got named October 13th. Now, I feel like we've been having a bit of a rather tame hurricane season this year. Do you agree?
Yeah, we've actually had a below average hurricane season in terms of named storms and hurricane, about one below average on both of those. But in terms of major hurricanes, we've had some impactful fish storms this year, and we're actually one above average in terms of our major hurricane count.
Absolutely. Definitely been seeing the major hurricanes a little bit more over the ocean, not necessarily making landfall. But thank you so much for that, and we appreciate it. Thank you again for the forecast this week. So make sure to tune in again next week for another installment of Whether or Not.